Welcome to the show. I'm so excited for you to get to listen to my conversation with Eric Fisher. He is the founder of Eric Fisher Salons, Eric Fisher Academy, and Prosper You. He's also a photographer and a platform artist, industry expert, and industry celebrity. So it is my honor to get to visit with him and share our conversation with you. Welcome to Sweet Independence, the podcast for beauty professionals ready to build the business of their dreams. I'm Kristen Kinzel, founder of Utopia Modern Salon Suites. With 34 years in this industry, I've seen firsthand the power of independence and community. We'll ditch the stress, unlock your potential, and give you the clarity and confidence to thrive. Get ready to transform your career and build the fulfilling life you deserve. Your flourishing future starts now. Today I get to sit down with someone who's not only shaped the Wichita beauty scene, but who has shaped the industry as a whole. Eric Fisher, founder of Eric Fisher Academy, Eric Fisher Salons, and Prosper You. So tell me how you got started, and most importantly, I want to know, when did you realize that this industry was more about just beauty?
Well, that's an interesting question. So when I was younger, I worked nights since I was 13, playing in bands, and I was a drummer, and I loved jazz. And then I went to a music school for 1 year, North Texas State, which happened to be the best music school in the world at that time. They had 12 lab bands. And I thought I'd go and make number one because I was such a badass drummer, right? I mean, I was like playing since I was 13 in nightclubs professionally. I've been around the United States playing. So I go in, I didn't make the 1 o'clock band. I didn't make the 2. I didn't make any of them. And I realized that I wasn't as good as I thought. Mm-hmm. And my mother was a hairdresser, and I always thought, well, I could always fall back, go to beauty school. And I used to watch my mother work, and it was just incredible because it was like a babysitter for me, mm-hmm. right? People would love her, and they had such a heartfelt sense of appreciation for what she did for them, and they would hug her and kiss her, and then they'd get in their wallets or their pocketbooks, and they'd pay her for it. And I thought, I'm not the smartest kid in the world, but you get all this love and all this appreciation, and then you make money. What is better than that? Yeah. And my dad was military, so he wanted me to go in the military. He always came home, he's in a bad mood, big tough guy, fought in 2 wars. And I said, Dad, I'm not going there. I'm not that kind. I'm more like Mom. So I decided to go to beauty school, and that was a wreck, train wreck. I got kicked out here. It was terrible. Teacher said, you're only in it for the girls. And I go, yeah, that's about right. I went to school with 60 girls. I loved it. My 1,500 hours was up. I don't want to leave. This is the most fun I've ever had in my life. But I eventually did. My dad said, if you're going to be a hairdresser, which I don't think he was big on at all, being a military guy. He says, there's a place in London called Vidal Sassoon's. And so he was taking a plane over to Kuwait. I got a free ride. It was KC-135, 19, 20 years old, drops me off in London. I go what the hell am I doing? I didn't have 2 beans to rub together. I ate cucumber sandwiches. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any wherewithal. But when I got to the school, I'd never taken a taxi before, which was interesting for me. I saw people from all over the world coalescing in this positive way, creating these tribal effects with hair. And I go shit, this is not my mother's salon. This is amazing stuff. And I fell in love with it. And I had no natural talent whatsoever, but I did have desire, and I worked hard. So, I trained at Sassoon's, and then, I freelanced. I worked in London, Paris, Greece, Turkey, you name it. I worked around the world. I got better and better. I still practiced. I still worked hard. Then I was working in New York City, and I met this girl because I come back and freelance a little bit in Wichita. I cut her sister's hair. She came in, and she said, we started dating, when I was in town. She said, you should open a salon. I go, look, I barely made it through high school. I don't think I'm smart enough. And she says, you're smarter than you think you are. Yeah. So she didn't want to move to New York, and I had a job in Italy. So we went to Italy. We got married in Italy, and she said, why don't you let's get back to Wichita, America. And I always liked Wichita. And so I said, okay. So we did. We got married. We opened our first salon, and it was good. And I was smarter than I thought. And so I'd cut these guys' hair like Frank Carney, who had started pizza. Jamie Coulter's a dear friend for years. He took 3 companies public. These are smart guys, and they all told me what to read. They told me what to view, told me what to listen to. And when I read it, I realized I got it. I could talk to them about the same subject material. They love me. I love them.
Yeah.
So they were my mentors in life. And so, we opened a bunch of salons at school and so on and so forth. So it's been a great adventure. And I still am passionate. I still love it, even at my age, all these decades. I'm excited to go to work every day. Sometimes I want to pull my hair out, but I still love it.
I can relate. Even after being in the industry for decades, I love it. I'm still passionate about that. I think that's what you and I really connect on. We have that in common.
I think so. And since I have a beauty school, we have, 180 students, and I try to get them to reach the sweet spot so they can connect, so they love it. And they say you're successful if you love what you do and you go to work every day, not because you have to, but because you want to. And you love who you work with, the people, the team, the culture of a company is so important, and love who you do it for. And that, of course, is our wonderful clients. And, and I'll say something about the clients. When you work, I have clients that have been to me for 40 years. Wow. They come in every 5 weeks. When you see somebody that often, you do anything you can for them, and they'll do anything they can for you. And it's a beautiful, beautiful relationship. I go to their weddings, funerals, unfortunately. I still have clients, I go to their houses just because they can't make it into the salons anymore. And I love them. I'm caring, they're caring about me. And that relationship down deep is what it's all about.
Oh, yeah.
But if people don't hit that sweet spot with their career and they vacillate in indecision, they don't make a difference in people's lives, then they won't appreciate what you and I appreciate about the industry. It's much more than just technical skills.
So one thing I heard you say is you fell back on beauty school. I think that's really changing. I know my family was very disappointed when I said, I'm not going to college, I'm going to beauty school. They didn't see it as a real career.
Right.
They didn't see a future. I think I've shocked them, but the career was perfect for me. It was very flexible when I was having children. All the ebbs and flows of life, it just goes with you. That being said, what do you have to say to that about just falling back on beauty school and how that's changed?
When I told my dad I wanted to go to beauty school, he said, anything else you want to tell me, son?
Must be gay.
I think that, if you, in every hairdresser in every movie's gay.
Yeah.
And I love gay people, but I have so many friends that are straight, they're super successful. So that doesn't have anything to do with it. And not to marginalize colleges, because I think any kind of education is the lifeblood of everything we do. But I will say, I think that college enrollments are going lower and career colleges are going higher. So I think, why spend all that money, and for classes that you don't need? And again, not to marginalize it, because I'm a learner. I love to learn. But I will say that I think trade schools offer better opportunities. Everybody wants social mobility. They want economic opportunities in what they do. I can't think of anything better than this industry to do it. I mean, we have people in my company that make $100,000 a year. They have health, or we pay half a health insurance. They have 401k I contribute to. We've got millions in our 401k. They get paid vacations. The benefits are in the trade schools as well as if you go work for a big corporation. But in the trade schools, you put forth the effort, you get rewarded.
Oh, yeah.
That's not always true in the corporate world. So not that I'm antithetical to all of that. I just think that trade schools are the place to be. That's how I feel about it. Other people feel differently.
Something else I think you and I agree on is the constant learning. We've shared books we love.
Yes.
And you mentioned learning from your clients who knew more than you did about business. I had that experience too. They see it in you, they egg you on, and they tell you things that you didn't know. They connect you with people you didn't know that will help you get to where you are today. I love the whole constant learning. And that kind of leads us into, you have a school and you also have Prosper You. And tell us all about that and how that really facilitates the long-term learning. And
you and I are so like-minded in that educational process, because learning to me is everything. Student for life, and we've always had learning organizations. So we opened our salons back in 1988. Every Tuesday night is class night. Every quarter we bring somebody famous in. I love that you still have that. Still do it. Now our participation is not as good as it used to be, because and there's something that we say at our school: don't do it for me, do it with me. When you watch TikTok or you watch YouTube videos, that's good. That can be very motivational, but you're not going to learn as much as if somebody's hands-on. So I'm a hands-on, do it with me, not for me kind of guy. And I would say that, we build our salons, we have 4, and I saw that there was a weakness, and not to disparage any other beauty schools, but the quality of the student was not there. So I said, either we partner, I'm going to train your teachers, or I'm going to open my own school, and it'll be a very formidable competition. And although I liked all the school owners at the time, nobody wanted to do that, so I opened my own. And I train all the instructors myself. I mean, we have students from New York, from LA, from Texas, from Hawaii, from all over, you name it.
Coming to Wichita, Kansas.
Usually the parents are, in the industry. They want their kids to go to the best school. And our loan default rate, 3%, which is pretty good. All our key benchmark numbers, and I say that not with a lot of ego, and there are a lot of great schools, but I love my school. So Prosper U was born out of the school because I realized that kids today, they need more than just good technical skills. That's a good place to start. They also need relationship skills, conversational guidelines. There's got to be that exchange of energy when you meet somebody. You've got to want to go back to that person. If that person has no personality, it doesn't matter how good they are, they might not go back. And they also need business skills. So, what we want to do was ameliorate the things that don't work and capitalize on the things that do. And because I'm in the trenches and I understand this business so well, I've done books and tapes, sold them for years and years and years. I've done every major show for at least 30 years in America as well as in Europe. So I felt like I was qualified to. So what we did is I wrote the content. We did it like Starbucks, 21 lessons, hour lessons. Then I hired the best, smartest consultants I knew and the best writers. And how do you engage students today that have an attention span that's like 8 seconds? So we knew all the content had to be exceedingly engaging. So we put the whole program together so that the student would have the opportunity to learn. Because, Kristen, today, learning is hard. You're bombarded with noise from all over the place. Our attention spans are shorter. It's difficult. It's even difficult for me, and I turn off the social media. When I focus, one of my favorite books is Atomic Habits, James Clear, and I do what he says. And by the way, we make our students practice, because what you do off the job affects what you do on the job. So it's a 2-minute video they have to do, and they practice on a technique. And it's interesting. If you practice, first of all, you have to have a good mental model of what excellence looks like. Once you have that mental model, which is the instructor's job or our job, your job, once they have that mental model, then they know what excellence looks like, and then you work backwards. And so we practice 2 minutes every day on a certain technique, same place, same time, every day. So they form the habit of excellence. And some people will say, I was so busy this week and I just didn't have time. Well, I'm like, 2 minutes, okay. So you want to be great. Greatness has a price, It's like rent. The rent is due every day when you're successful. Every day you got to do what you say you got to do. Your word is everything. What was that book, The 4 Agreements, where the guy talks about the first agreement is your word. Your word means everything. I had this young kid in, he's 29. Last Tuesday's famous guy, right? Worked with Annie Leibovitz when he was 22. Annie Leibovitz, a famous photographer, her day rate's $100,000. So that gives you any idea. And he taught in Europe. And so my students loved him. They loved him. I mean, they love this kid because he's young. They can relate to him.
Cool.
Then I brought him into the staff, and the staff loved him. And somebody said, how did you get so successful? And he said, you show the fuck up. You show up. People don't show up today. They just don't, period. I get cancellations on shoots. I get cancellations on this. I go to a show. My support staff sometimes cancel. I just did this big event last weekend in Kansas City, and I gave out the Hairdresser of the Year award. It's a national event. And half the people that won awards did not show up. And I don't get that. I just don't understand that for the life of me. So you asked me one of the tenets of being successful. I'd say today, you got to demonstrate the behavior that successful people have, and that means showing up, period.
I've found that to be true. I work with a business coach. I think you and I have talked about that. And she's always presenting something to me, and every time I show up, I get the result that is predicted. If you just show up, it takes you to places, it puts you in front of people you didn't expect to be. It just creates more opportunities just to show up.
Well, and again, not to disparage this generation, I'm a vestige of the past. So the way that I grew up, I had this big show to do in Orlando, and I was playing pickleball. and I was drinking some really good wine, so I should have probably been playing, but the wine was so good that we were all drinking and having fun, and I tore my Achilles. Well, I had a big show to do in Orlando for a couple thousand people. I was working with Rob the Original, who's a famous barber, and a Japanese guy named Takashi. The three of us were doing it together. So I got some crutches. I called the hotel. I said, put ice in the bathtub, and I hobbled my way on stage through all the airports. I did the show. I got back. My doctor yelled at me, said what an idiot I was, but I said, I show up. You got to show up, you know? And people loved it. It was a great show. I did great work. I just wouldn't have missed it for the world, you know?
What's lost on them is just the grit. You know, they're quick to say, I can't. My anxiety is too high.
Yes.
Or I tore my Achilles.
Yeah.
They don't have the grit
I have a
to
hangnail.
push through. Yes, sometimes it's just I have a hangnail. And I think that I know in me, when I'm looking at beauty professionals, the ones who have the grit and the push through, the ones that I can see will go somewhere and be successful.
I think to your point, there's a lack of intrinsic motivation with young people, not just in our industry, but in all industries. I hear about this in the medical school or any field. And I don't know why that is, because the way you and I grew up was again, a little different to this. But, you know, I tell all my students, hey, guys, I know there's a great book out called The Anxious Generation where they talk about anxiety, depression, self-mutilation, suicides, you know, tripled since the iPhone came out, you know, largely due to social media. And I can you know, be empathetic to that, and I understand that because I
couldn't have survived it.
No,
there was cameras back in our day. There were cameras. We're not that old.
Right.
There were cameras. They just weren't on everybody's hand, in everybody's hands.
And that's why photography's been democratized. Everybody's a photographer, you know.
Yes. Yeah.
Anyway, I tell my students this. I say, you know, you're going to fall on your ass. Not everybody's going to love you, but you can't go in the back room and cry about it. Yeah. You got to be proactive. You got to understand failure is so important. When you're in your comfort zone, you're never going to fail, but you're not growing. You're staying right with what you know. When you exceed that level of competency and it forces you to learn and it's uncomfortable, you are going to fail, but that's where you learn. The biggest breakthroughs with humans come with failure, not with success. I mean, read Thomas Edison's biography. It's amazing. Or read Elon Musk. I just finished it. It's amazing how many times they fail and they fail and they fail and they fail. But the determination, in fact, Tom Brady's speech, for graduation speech, was amazing. The GOAT, the best, you know, his 200th and 80th in the draft. He didn't even get to play hardly at Michigan when he was there. And now he's the best. And he's the best because he didn't give up. He kept going. He practiced. And he didn't go home and get a Bud Light Lime and eat Lay's potato chips. He practiced. He watched game film. He worked his ass off to be successful. And I'm not saying that that's bad. I'm not saying that that's good. I'm saying, you know, kids that want a work-life balance, it's difficult. They want freedom, work-life balance. It's not going to happen until you pay your dues. It's like a merry-go-round, and this is what I tell my students. You know, it's like a merry-go-round. You push, you push, you push. Then you can jump on board and you can ride for a little bit. But you got to push that damn thing first, and it's not going to push itself.
And you got to keep pushing.
You got to keep pushing.
It's going to slow down. You got to give it another shot.
And you know, when you have a sense
analogy.
of purpose to your life, it gives you a reason to get up in the mornings, like ikigai, the Japanese talk about. And you reach that sweet spot where you make people look good, you make people feel good about what they're doing. It makes you feel good about who you are and your contribution to society and what you're doing for other people. I mean, I love that. I love my students that are diffident and shy and they've riddled with anxiety, and I teach them something, or I'm amazing instructors, and they teach them something, and their life changes, their perception of society changes. You know, they can look at you and say, oh, you look great, but define your brows. Or, you know, you should blend your eyeliner a little bit use this tapered brush in the same color as a pencil. Or you should put some highlights on your face to make your skin tones look better. You know, this is what being an intimate professional is all about. It's about having the capabilities to make those changes. And when I see my students grow like that with confidence, I grow because they're my legacy. It makes me feel so good about what they're achieving.
Yeah. So as we come from a different generation than the people that you work with primarily, you're working with 18, 19, 20-year-olds in your schools and young people in your salons. My salons are filled with we really have a pretty wide age range, but we do have a lot of younger folks. I think something that helps keep you and I relevant is that we learn to get into their mindset. And I know you work especially hard on that. We've talked a lot about that, trying to figure out where it is they're coming from and understanding that they're not going to do what we did to get here. You know, in the 90s, 6 days a week, every Saturdays weren't an option. 10-hour days were a minimum. You just did it, and that's what you do. Nobody's going to hand you a clientele and, $600 a day. But I think that maintaining that relevancy for us with them is super important. And I know you focus a lot on that. Tell us about what you do to really to balance their mindset with what you know to be true and how you influence them with your values and the things that have gotten you where you are.
That's really good. And I think this group of people, it's not that they don't respect you, but they don't really coalesce with authority that much. They don't care who you are. They just want to know what you're going to do for them, which is not bad. It's just the way it is. And I will tell you that most people want to be good. Most of these students want to be good. And if you take a deep dive, in our generation, I worked hard. I didn't think my parents raised me with benign neglect. I just did it, It was just the way it was. My dad drops me off in London when I'm 19. And I said, "What do I do now, Dad?" He said, "Now you're a man. You'll figure it out." It scared me to death, but I didn't have anxiety about it. I just did it. So I think when people want to be good, they want to learn, there's a reason why they can't. And I think a good instructor builds a development plan or performance plan for them, understanding their constraints. And it could be anything. It could be, "Hey, I've got a second job. I'm exhausted. I'm sorry I didn't get it. It's not that I don't want to get it, but I'm tired because I work until 2 a.m. as a waitress. Or I've got a learning disability. I've got anxiety." And once the instructor understands that, they can develop a plan that's more intimate just for that individual.
So you go in with empathy.
Empathy. It used to be, you do something bad, why'd you do that? And here's the punitive measure. Now it's, why'd you do that? How do you feel about what you did? Let me tell you how I feel about what you did and the people that got affected by what you did. Now let's work on a plan so that doesn't happen again. Let's sit down together. So again, I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it with you. It gives you time to reflect on your past behavior and your past experience. And most people during that reflection process have kind of an awakening. So I think, to your point, the truth lies between being permissive and being punitive. If you're too punitive, they're going to take umbrage at what you're saying. They're not going to respect you. You've lost them. And they're going to be shamed by what you said to them. If you're too permissive, the behavior is just going to continue. But if you can hit that sweet spot where they're reflective, they understand why they did that, and you understand that they have a learning disability. They have a mental challenge. Whatever that happens to be, 1 out of 5 do. And I don't know what, or maybe they're working late, or maybe they have an abusive family that they're dealing with and they can't focus in on, whatever keeps them from doing what they're doing. And that's what you have to understand that. When instructors sign up for beauty schools, like, I don't want to be a therapist. I don't want to do that. But you got to be a little of that if you want to be successful. And, you've got to do your best for your students. You've got to. That's your responsibility. You can teach them all the technical skills in the world, but if they don't trust you and they don't believe in you and you're not empathetic to them, then you're going to lose them, and they're going to drop out. They're going to not have a good career or whatever.
So I want to know what motivated you or inspired you to start Prosper You?
Well, Prosper You is just so dynamic, and I love it. And I will say I've got a great team down there led by Aaron Rogers. We have well over 20,000 students at this very minute using our course. We have an app, and we're in 37 states, so I'm really proud of everything we've done there. I think it's just the recognizing that relationship skills, there has to be that exchange of energy that kids don't have today. Look them in the eye, lean forward, mention their name, smile, make them pretend like that client's a third grader, right? If you don't have that exchange of energy, then you're not going to bond with that client. And that client is so important to you, to your business. So you could be the best in the world, but if you don't have that connection, you're going to lose it. So that was part of it. And just the scripts, I know the dialogue that works. I'm a big Deming fan, and he says take the variation out of everything, do the same thing each and every way. We let our students personalize the scripts. But what we do is we manage all the points of contact that a client and a student would have together. the greeting, the consultation, the shampoo, the finished style, the retail recommendation, the pre-book, all those things, the referral. You know, like if I'm doing your hair right now, I would say, or my students doing your hair, I'd say, okay, Kristen, Mary over here, the student's going to say, hey, Kristen, I'd like to see you again 5 weeks from today. 5 weeks from today puts us at the end of October. Do you like the mornings or the afternoons? Now, I'm going to listen to her say that. And I'm going to tell the client, I said, now, this is school. She's going to practice her script. So the key to learning is repetition, repetition, repetition. I find that greatness comes with being very rhetorical about things. You got to repeat them. We have a saying that says 4 times 4 ways in our school for the same content. We want our students to own these. So then they know, even if they're shy, all they have to do is fall back to what they know to do to build their business. You know, like asking for a referral or asking for a review, you know, it becomes rote. It becomes, you've got the mental model of what greatness is. So that helps them a lot. And then we do the business building things, because the thing I learned, I knew nothing about business and financial literacy and all that. And we teach them all that now. And it's great. So we teach them how, oh, by the way, you know, like I said, have you ever considered defining your brows? You know, we have a special on it today, or I would use this language. This language is very important. Does your hair feel dry to you, Kristen? It does?
Oh, yeah.
Because you said your hair felt dry, we just happen to have a moisturizing conditioner, happens to be on sale today for $12. Would you be interested in doing that? So all of a sudden, our average ticket at our beauty school is really high for a beauty school.
Oh,
okay?
that's excellent.
And it's because these guys know how to add on services that are necessary. Color, waxing, or condition for aesthetic, or for Cosmo. Aesthetics has their own. And this builds the average ticket, which means, and by the way, you know this, the people in our industry that make the most money have the highest average ticket.
Oh, yeah.
So get that ticket higher, make more money.
But also those take-home products and all that builds on what you've just done.
Absolutely.
I see stylists refusing to want to sell retail because they think it's selling, stylists or estheticians.
Yes.
Where, you know, you do a beautiful facial, you've done so much work, now they're going to go home and use their stuff that it totally demolishes all the work you just did, and then that reflects on you as the beauty professional.
Well, and sometimes you have to be very categorical about what you're telling the clients. So, you know, we have a method. It's the 3-product method. And it's a Fabergé study that was done years ago. It works with dresses, works with cars, works with jewelry. Take 3 products up. You say, these are the 3 products I used on you today. Nobody wants to say no. The students don't want to hear the word no, so we never ask for the sale. We just say, thank you, what a pleasure. I will see you again in 5 weeks. Guest Services has you pre-booked. These are the 3 products I used on you today, and we walk away. There's an 82% chance that that client will buy at least 1 product. And to the students, we do financial planning for them. So we can look down and we can say, you know, if your average ticket is this, you're doing this many clients a day, you're working 5 days a week, 4 days a week, you know, you're getting 15 to 20% in tips, you're going to pay this in taxes. It's a whole financial plan. And if you retail, you can add another 5 to 10% to your bottom line. That's thousands of dollars just by mentioning, telling about a product. You're not selling anything.
And
you're just endorsing. Yeah.
You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking of all the money I've left on the table over the last 35 years because I didn't know this.
Well,
where was Prosper You when I was
we were
coming up?
Retail Salon of the Year way back in the day by American Salon or Modern Salon, one of the magazines. So I took a deep dive into this. So one thing that I think is essential, that where you put your focus is where you get your results. So when you want to do something, I'm all in. I research it, I read about it, I find out the best practice for it, I interview the right people. And when we started double shifting, I went to Jerry Gordon in Chicago, Karen and Jerry. They were the best, the smartest. And he said, every one of your chairs can do what? I go, I don't know. You know, he said, what are you doing now? I said, 9 hours a day. How many days you open? He says, you can do 72, 76 hours a week with your chairs. We double shifted. We're open 7 days a week and packed all the time. People want to come in at 10 o'clock at night. People want to come in at 7 in the morning.
And some people want to work those hours too.
And some people want to work those hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, whatever it is that you try to accomplish, you know, life is about movement and change. It's not about vacillating indecision. It's not about stillness. People say, hey, I want to do this, I want to do that. I go, well, why aren't you doing it then? Why aren't you in the trenches? Why don't you work your ass off and find out everything you can about that to be great? It's easy. Everybody wants to be great, but what are you willing to do for it? That's the question. And that's what I ask people when they say, I want to be rich. I want to be successful like you. I worked for a company for a year out of New York for free. I slept in my car to go see famous hairdressers in Houston. I have done it all. I went to London. I lost weight because I had to eat cucumber sandwiches because I had no money. Yeah. But guess what? It paid off. I got a retainer. I made more money probably than almost any other platform artist in the country. I traveled the world doing hair. I worked for magazines. I shot with Cosmo in Greece. And I loved it. I was like a rock star, you know, and I've had so much fun. And why? Because I got good. I got really good because I paid the price in the beginning. I suffered. I sacrificed. And you got to do that. If you want to be great, it's not just going to happen. Demonstration is how it happens, you know. It doesn't happen any other way. You got to demonstrate to me, you know. My dad said to me when I got off that plane, you want to be good? Do you want to be great? Or do you want to be amongst the best? And I said, I don't know what that means, you know. I just didn't know what that means, you know. I guess I want to be my personal best. I mean, I didn't know. And I don't think there's any the best, you know. I thought about that over the years, and I thought, you know, I'm not competitive at all with anybody except myself. And if I'm not living up to, if I let a haircut go out the door because I'm still behind the chair a couple of days, and it's not perfect, it bothers me. I'm so aligned with quality and excellence in my life that is a very important core value for me. And everybody's got their own core values, and mine are very important to me. My personal core values, good health. You got to have a strategy for every core value, right? Good health. I brush my teeth 6 times a day, way too much, wash my hands, work out. I got good mental health. I read the right books, focus on the right things. Your life has to have that kind of movement to it. If it doesn't, then it slips away from you too fast. And you look back and you go, I wish I should have, I could have. Everybody's got the capabilities, but not everybody has the desire.
I think when your dad asked you that question, if you'd had any foresight, you would have known that you do strive to be the best.
Yeah, I
know you're not competitive, but obviously you work to be the best. You feel that your school is the best, your salons are the best, and I don't think very many people can argue with you.
I so appreciate those kind words. And I think that's just a personal, maybe it's a, you know, you work a lot harder and you work a lot longer. And I sacrificed a lot of things. Like I have 4 kids, and I probably wasn't there enough for the younger girls. But, you know, now we all travel together. We have a good time. They have kids. So all is good. But yeah, I mean, there's always a price to pay for success. I mean, there always is. Extra practice, whatever it is. But you pay that price. You just do. It's just part of life. And if you don't want to pay the price, then you're going to settle in mediocrity, you know? And that's your choice.
So a lot of what's influenced your success comes from outside the beauty industry. Going forward, what do you see coming that will be an influence in our industry?
Well, I think there's so many things because everything's becoming amalgamated together. And thanks to social media and things like that, like I grew up with magazines, you know, Linda Evangelista in the 90s or the late 80s on the cover of Vogue with a great little haircut. You don't see that anymore. You know, a podcaster that's got 1 million followers is more influential than a magazine, you know? So things have dynamically shifted. And I would say, you know, I read this amazing book, Circle of Creativity by Rick Rubin. If you haven't read this book, you got to read it. But you got to have your antenna up. You got to look for the next best thing. And again, if your antenna is not up, you're not going to see it. Like as a photographer, my antenna is always up. I look at something, I look at reoccurring patterns, I look at gradation of light. Automatically, I've trained my eye to see that, not just in people, but in everything. So I think that antenna has to be up there for what you're looking for. My wife and I went to a restaurant recently, a new Italian restaurant. I know the owner, and he's a wonderful, wonderful individual. If I were going to open an Italian restaurant, guess what? I'd go down to Little Italy in New York, and I'd look at what's happening there. And I would be so authentic. But, you know, they were playing top 40 music. There was no feeling of Italy in the place. It wasn't authentic at all. You know, in fact, it lacked so much authenticity. The seats were hard. The food was great. My wife will never go back. Food was great. Now, it was really good, but the atmosphere, the environment,
the
experience wasn't there. I'm glad you brought that up because there was a great book written called The Experience Economy. And you want to transcend past the service into the experience of the business. Now, let me tell you a little story. When I was a young hairdresser, I was working in New York a lot. I got big really fast because I just loved it. And so I was doing all this stuff in New York City, but I was coming back to Wichita, America. But I used to travel on TWA, if anybody remembers that airline, through St. Louis. And there was an big old barber at the airport that used to cut my hair. I loved this guy. And he had the biggest, fattest hands. And he would put that stinky stuff on me, and I loved it. And he'd push my head around like this. And you know why I loved this so much? Was the haircut great? I don't even think it was that good. But I loved it because my dad used to take me to that barber shop wherever we lived at the time. He was military. And I just remember that bonding, my dad was a tough guy. So bonding with my dad over a barber shop was great. And so I went back to this place until TWA went out of business, and I didn't go through St. Louis to go to New York anymore. The experience just transcended the actual service. And, the sight, sound, smell, all those things have to go together to make the experience great. So in my salons, we play all the videos from the fashion from Milan to Paris to New York, all Prada, Miu Miu, Comme des Garçons, all the latest fashions. We got the best magazines. We have candies and Starbucks coffee. We have red wine, white wine. We want that experience to be great. We come in early, we stay late, we go beyond the call of duty for the client. Whatever it takes, we'll be there. If it's a little old lady, we'll walk them out to the car. We'll call them to make sure they made it home okay on a rainy day. You exceed expectations because it's not just the service business. It's the people business. And so all of those things, and I'm influenced by all of that. I've been to all the Danny Meyer's restaurants in New York. I used to live in New York. I've been to all of his restaurants. The service was impeccable and great. So if I were opening a new business today, I wouldn't go next door and see what they're doing. I wouldn't look at my competition in town. I would go to the best places, and that's what I did. Every one of my salons is unique like this one. This looks like Paul Smith clothing place in London because that's what influenced me. I'm either a museum, I'm a restaurant, I'm a library, I'm a bookstore. Every one of my locations is different because I'm influenced by those things. They're really good. They pay attention to details. And to me, I'm a detail guy. Yeah. In fact, when my son's 25 now, he lives in Dallas, just turned 25. When he was a little guy, we used to go get yogurt. And I'd say, okay, tell me, he'd be 8, 7 years old. What's wrong? 2 lights are burned out, Dad. That stain that was here last week is still here. They've got the music on, the TV's playing. It's confusing. I go, good boy. You notice those details. You got to be detail oriented. There's an old saying, Tom Peters used to say, LBWA, learn by walking around. Sit in your lobby. Get a service done at another place.
Put your phone down.
Put your phone down, yes.
And take it in.
You have to be intimate with life. And we're so superficial these days. We get on our phone. Even my guys, my leadership staff, they're brilliant. I'll go into the conference room. Everybody's on their phone. I go, get the heck off your phones. Let's talk. Let's build, character and relationship, and let's move the ball forward. But we're not going to do that on your phones.
It's hard. I challenge myself. I have a thing where if I walk into a restaurant and I'm waiting, it's so easy to grab your phone and distract yourself and start looking. I think, no, put it down,
I do
take
it
in, look at the people, like you said, look at the decor, notice that a light bulb's out.
So my wife and I were having dinner, this is a couple of years ago. We walked into this place, it was like a stretch massage place. It was a cool new business. And the guy that does it is there, and the receptionist is there. And they're both on their phones. And I said, hey, what's this? It was a franchise. And I said, you guys missed out. I have 150 employees. You just missed out on, I was going to do this for my staff, but I'm not going to do it now. In fact, if I can find the owner, because no attention, indifference. Indifference is the enemy. Not that you have to be over the top of, oh, I love you so much. You don't have to do that, but you got to show that you care. You got to be in the moment, Yeah. And I have clients that come in that are 50 years old that say, I'm invisible. Nobody pays attention to me, And because people are on their phones and they're so indifferent. And you show me a place that is good with customer service. There's plenty of them out there, but it's a deal breaker for me.
Well, in our industry, I know when people select their beauty professional, whether it's someone giving them a massage, a facial, or a haircut, so little of it is about the quality. You can do a terrible haircut,
right? If they like you,
but if they love you, they feel noticed and needed. And then the touch. I remember when I was towards the end of my hair cutting career a couple of years ago, I had clients that were older and their husbands were gone.
Yes.
And the kids don't come around that often. And I was the only one who touched them
Yes.
in the 5 weeks between the time they'd seen me. And sometimes that's a little draining because you really got to
emotionally
give.
draining.
It's emotionally draining. But I think that gets lost on some of these people too. They just think if I can master my craft, I can just go in, be on my phone when I'm not doing whatever I'm doing and just check in, check out. But it's so much more than that. It's the things of checking to see that they made it home. There's a book, and I wish that I could be as good as you about naming off the books I've read and the authors. And I also want to know when you find time to consume all that, because I usually have both going at the same time, but there's just never enough time to consume all that I want to consume. But that being said, there's a book that I read, and I'll come up with it as soon as we're done with this podcast. But it is about exactly what you're talking about, and it's a restaurant industry book. And
I bet that's that guy that has a Madison Avenue restaurant that just won. I've got it. I read it. It's great. It's called Unrealistic Hospitality or something.
Unreasonable
That's it.
Hospitality.
Unreasonable Hospitality.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great book.
So good and so inspiring. And I thought every hairstylist needs to read this book. People won't pull that off the shelf because it's a restaurant book.
Yeah.
So,
well, there's so many similar things, and I can appreciate everything you're saying because I have clients too that I love them, but they don't want to get out of the chair.
Mm-hmm.
They're busy talking to me. I don't like to run behind. I have assistants, but they'll come up to me and go, Eric, Mary's waiting for you over here. And I'll go, listen, I really have to go. And I love them, but they're lonely. They talk to you. And I talk to them, I give every student my phone number. Thousands and thousands of students have my number. And I say, text me, don't call me, because I want to know how they're doing. I think that level of intimacy is really important. Some people, like I had a guy tell me one time, I said, what's the regrets? He made a lot of money. He's at Long Island. He said, my biggest regret, I should have doubled the price of my tickets for my clients before I left the industry, because they would have paid it. And I go, wow. I was thinking about doing my work for free because I love my clients so much, and I made enough money that I just work for free. I said, your take on life is a lot different than my take on life. This guy had a product company, made millions. But it's not about the money. The money is the byproduct of your hard work. It's a validation of who you are, your commitment. But my God, to me, I could care less about the money. I think maybe that's why I've done so well, because I never was motivated by money,
Oh yeah, you can't be motivated by money. But that being said, I think that's something we're starting to see, is there is money in this industry. There is success. You can support your family and your lifestyle. And I know back when I entered the industry, it felt more like a hobby. I wasn't taken seriously. I was just a hairstylist.
I know.
Oh, you just do hair. And there was no respect for it, and a strong assumption that I would never make money at doing something. So I love to see that changing and evolving.
I do these master classes around America, so I meet all the best of the best. And it is so interesting. I can think of a dozen people. Like I do this charity event in Washington, D.C. for a children's hospital. And I think we charge $750 a haircut or something, $500. I can't even remember. But there's 4 celebrity hairdressers like me. We all do it. And we love doing it. It's 24 hours. Morton's caters it. It's beautiful. But the guy that runs the show there, little French Moroccan guy named Andre, and the Europeans work so much different than the Americans, and the English, the French do. And so I go up, how many clients do you guys see, does Andre see? And they said, about 100. And I go, no, not the whole salon, just him himself. He said, yeah, about the 100.
Wow.
I go, you got to be kidding me, 100. So I go up and watch this guy, 5 assistants. The guy is unbelievable. You don't need the cut today. We just do the highlights. You need the cut and the color. You need nothing but a blowout. That's the way they work. That's the Europeans tell the clients what's going to happen. And this guy, last time I was there, I think it was a $150 a haircut. This guy's making 10 to 15 grand a day himself. There's also a couple of twins down in New Orleans that I work with a lot. In fact, they're going to be here this month. And they have an average ticket of over $300, and they both do about 20 to 30 clients a day. Their average day themselves, one person, is between $7,000 and $15,000 a day. And I know this for a fact because they've shown me their totals.
Wow.
Incredible. So anybody says I can't make money, but you have to be intentional. We do color, and you get the conditioner and you buy the products that we recommended, or we don't do your hair, period. And because they're really good at what they do, they have a waiting list of clients. And their model is really interesting. You go in the morning and then you sit at a big round table with people that have been booked, 4 weeks out, just like you, or 6 weeks out. You drink coffees, eat rolls. You go in the afternoon, it's the same thing, same people, you know them all. It's a social thing. You go in at night, there's red wine, there's snacks, and it's a beautiful, beautiful system. And they love what they do. They're very passionate, but they make more money than just about any. That's not their salon. That's just them personally. Wow. And you can do it, but they have certain rules and regulations. And you know what? They're drivers. They're not as old as I am. They're probably, I don't know how old they are, but they love what they do, and they print money. And all their staff makes a ton of money too. They're great. So not that money is that important, but I love the fact that, you're running the show. We have, for our school, and this is a Prosper You thing, every student has to have a defining statement. A defining statement is what you do best. What's your elevator speech? Yeah. It could be, hey, I do the best color, I do best corrective color, I do the best weaves, and then why and what you do. Like mine's authentic beauty, so my strategy for that, my 30-second conversation would be, I can make you look good. I look at your face, I study your bone structure, I feel the back of the head, I understand your hair, I understand proportions. I can look at you and I can tell you to curl your lashes, define your brows, cut your hair a little shorter so it's proportionate. That's what I do. I'm a classically trained hairdresser. You want to look your best? Come to me. I'll make you look your best. That's it. And that's been my defining statement most of my career. So we encourage people to know what they do, know what they love, and follow that dream. And then get good. Take classes. There's not a better investment than you can make than in yourself. There's no stocks or bonds or real estate deals that will give you the kind of return that you can get if you just invest in yourself. I'm not talking about TikTok or YouTube videos. I'm talking about, get in the trenches, learn, and don't stop and practice. You ask me how I find the time to read. For years and years and years, I do the same thing. I get up at 4:30 every morning. I read for 20 minutes, and then I look at the 3 best topics, the 3 things I want to take away. I write those down. Then I read for another 20, 25 minutes, and I stop and I write those topics down. And then I go to my office, I work, and then I work out. And I never vary. It's the same thing. Well, I don't sleep much.
Oh.
And I've never need. That's one of my
That's
gifts.
That's your superpower.
I'm very lucky. I've got a little grandson now that doesn't sleep, and the kids are like, "Oh my God, he's just like you. Doesn't need sleep." But I can tell when I'm getting a little run down. But the thing is, you can't vary. You can vary once or twice, but once you start varying too much, you lose the habit. Habits are so important. Bad habits will stick with you, but good habits will stick with you too. And so you got to ameliorate the bad things and capitalize on the good things. That's one of my tenets. And you got to look at what's good and what And I read for pleasure once in a while, but I read to learn. I enjoy learning. It makes me feel good about myself.
I get all my inspiration from reading.
Me too. And from people like you inspire me with what you've done in your business. And
well, thank you.
You've worked hard at it, and I know it's not easy. I know how hard things are. So I really appreciate that you've done such a good job with this industry.
Well, thank you. Well, before we close, I think it would be really fun to talk about your photography career. I know that's something that a lot of people don't even know that you're into.
Well, my wife really doesn't call it a career. In fact, she calls it an expense. Like, why are we spending so much money here? I think it started because I used to be a freelance hairdresser, and I used to work with some really great, famous photographers. And I'd always say, I can do that. I got a good eye. It's not clicking the shutter. It's hair, makeup, wardrobe, all those things, the model, and then it's seeing what you need to see. And so I love it. We've done a couple books. I had a client in Los Angeles that's a great client. So we shoot a lot. In fact, we just shot a cover of a magazine for a blow dry company. And I would say that, when I was younger and I'd look through a book, I go, oh, that's nice, that's nice, that's nice. But it's like your career. The more you learn, you're like, oh my God, look at that beautiful reoccurring pattern, or look at the depth, or look at the model. And to that, I will say that the industry has changed so much because the definition of beauty has changed. I've learned that as a photographer. So, Cindy Crawford used to be the standard, and I knew her from New York, and she was the standard beauty, right? All American beauty. Well, now that's not the standard beauty. The standard beauty is a tall, maybe short Kate Moss with a gap between her teeth and her eyes are close together. She's got a lazy eye or whatever. It's that interesting point. And so I'm pretty good at picking up on those things with photography. And I mean, I'm learning all the time, but I try to, just like anything else, I take a course every year in photography. I'm disciplined enough that I shoot once a week, and we have great models here in Wichita, Kansas. I'm just learning all the time, and I'm not afraid to fail. I try new things, but yeah, it's been good. And then we shoot these competitions, and one of my students just won this year the North American Hairdressing of the Year awards, top students out of thousands of students, and that's all of North America. She won that with my pictures. And then another one just won, it's a competition, it's called the Vision Awards, from Detroit to Chicago to Texas, and she just won that, 2 different students same year. So the photography is good. A lot of these guys spend $10,000, $15,000 for doing these photo shoots. I pay the models $150 or something. So, we got great hair, great makeup. And, it's part of the beauty business. So it was an easy fit for me, and I really love it. Plus, I'm very passionate about it. And, hopefully I got an offer to move to New York to shoot. And I go, look, I did that as a hairdresser when I was a kid. I'm not going to go there as a photographer. I mean, I love Wichita, but it's fun. And we're getting a lot of good notoriety with the photography. In fact, I won a couple of awards with it. So yeah, it's good. It's a nice byproduct of what we're doing in the beauty business, and allows me to see that much better. The truth is, with everything, it's not your technical expertise, it's your ability to develop your own aesthetic, your own sense of style, your own taste. And once you have that, and if you can constantly work on it, like my son says something, which I don't always agree with. He said, this is the age of acceptance, and if they want to be like this, you have to accept it. Well, I'm not like that. I'm like, if you want to be dumb, you can be dumb, but why not try to be smarter?
Yeah.
If you want to be lazy, sure, you can be lazy. I accept that, but why not try, aspire to be more? Everybody's got the capabilities, but not enough people have the commitment. And those capabilities and commitment
slippery slope with acceptance.
It is a slippery slope.
Struggling for the word.
Well, and you don't want to engender ill feelings with younger people because, like I'll give you a great example. My assistant did not show up to see this famous guy that was in our salon a couple of weeks ago. And I go, I don't get why you weren't there. She said, well, I had to let my dogs out. And she quit that day because I got so pissed off. I said, I want more for you than you want for yourself. I want you to be great, but greatness has a price. You got to show up. Back to that thing we were talking about. You don't show up, guess what? You think you're going to be great if you don't put the time in? No way. Just doesn't happen. Success is like a 10-story building. Some people can take the elevator. I was never an elevator taker, but most of us have to take the stairs.
Those who take the elevator don't get all the gratification. And
there's a great book about this guy that raised 3 children back in the 60s. He was from Hungary. And I can't remember the name of the book, but he said, I want a wife that can align with my way of thinking. So he married this girl. He says, I want our kids to be great at something. She said, what do you want them to be great at? He says, language maybe, math maybe. She said, how about chess? So they made chess fun. The girls, the 3 daughters, they all loved it. These were all world champion chess players. One was the reigning world champion longer than anybody else. Why? Because they put the time in. They loved it. They put the effort in. They made it fun, But at the same time,
they set the standard.
They
want them to be great.
They wanted them to be great. Not that that's you don't have to be the best at what you do, but you should try to be your best.
So real quick, back to photography. You've obviously taken your skill and passion for hairstyling and turned it into education. Do you have any desire to teach photography?
Well, not really.
No?
I mean, I've got this young kid named Caesar that came in Saturday, and his mother is translating Prospero into Spanish for us. And they're just a wonderful kid, wonderful mother. And so he's taking great pictures. He's really good. So he's going to come and assist me, and I'm going to help him as much as I can. Yeah. And I think, you reach a certain age, Kristen, and you realize giving back is what it's all about. It's not about you anymore. It's about what you can do for other people. And so as much as I can give back, and I work hard to think about that, not to be self-indulgent, to be more, empathetic, more giving, more caring, not just financially, but involving myself. That's why my school, our profit margins for our school are not the best, but, we have great tools, great teachers, great things, and I love it. And if anybody wants to look at our social media, it's Eric Fisher Academy. Just look at our social media on the Eric Fisher Academy. My Instagram is Eric Fisher Photos or Eric Fisher Hair. You can check that out, and you can DM me about anything that you want to talk about. I don't do it myself because I have somebody that does it for me.
Yeah.
Her name is Shamari, and she does an amazing job, and we'll get back to you. If anybody wants to come hang out with me, we're totally transparent. I find that the more you give in life, the more you get in life. So with Prosper You, we do this VIP thing. So people come in, other schools, and they sit down with operations, marketing, education, financial aid, admissions. We give our playbooks to them, 100% transparency. This is why we're so good at what we do. We give you everything. And the next day, they get to watch Prosper You in action to see why they want it for their schools, how it boosts their cash flow, their average ticket, all these things for them, makes the student more capable, to earn more money in their chosen career, stay in the industry longer. And once they get and see it in action, everybody buys it because they love it, and it's cheap. It's like $99 per student,
Small investment.
Yeah, 12 hours, I think. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think that's my tenet. I just want to give and care about other people, and that's just me, And
I remember you telling me that, I asked you when we met for coffee, why you didn't expand your schools nationwide, because we know you could have. And if I remember correctly, your answer was because you want to be in there, you want to be hands-on, you want to know the students, and you want to give of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that speaks volumes. I love that when I reach out to you, you're available to me, and that's such a gift, and it says a lot about you that you'll even give your time to the little guy, the student.
Well, you are so cute. I think we're all on the same level, and I think people shared so much for me and helped me tremendously. I mean, I remember I was doing a big show for Donna Karan in Chicago, New York, and they wanted these wiglets. And I go, oh man, I'm a good hairdresser. I've never worked with that before. So there was a guy, and I think he was in Wichita, sat down with me and showed me how to do it. And a girl named Jolene Baker, who's been with me forever. And we worked for 3 days. He worked with us. I mean, every night after work, we worked with him. He would not take a dime. I said, please. He said, no. And then the show was flawless. It was great, thanks to his tutelage. And I used to go watch a guy named Jim Carson. And I'd get up, I'd meet him at 4:30 in the morning. He was a barber, and he was great with clippers and a razor. I go, Jim, I want to learn what you know. And most people will help you, and he worked with me and would never take a dime. There was a girl named Cecilia at Rico's, and Cecilia, when I was a beauty school student, when I was a student, I did models constantly, and she worked with me all the time. She helped me so much. She wouldn't take a dime for it. And these people are, Robin Wilburn's another one. I mean, he was the man in Wichita, America. And he helped me. I'd go watch him. He'd hand me the brush and say, finish my client's hair. I'd be like this, oh my God, what am I doing? And he would guide me. He'd help me. These kind of people that give back are the kind of people you want to hang out with, and it's so important when you get a little older, you got something to give, that you give it. And you get a lot more by giving than by getting, I find.
I agree.
And teaching is always a learning experience too. So you really want to get good at something, teach it,
Well, Eric, thank you so much for your time. I know you got up early this morning. You had some issues with your doggies.
My dogs.
Yes.
Yeah. I've got one in diapers and the other one can't walk, and it's almost time. It's just sad because I love my animals so much, and my wife is very demonstrative and very caring. So it is hard. Listen, it's been a joy and a pleasure, Kristen. Thank you. I appreciate you having me, and I love your model. I love what you're doing, and I think our industry, it's going through ebbs and flows, and historically, you can see that things change, and our industry's changing. And I'm not
change
always
with it.
You got to change with it. And even though we're not always on board, if we don't adapt, then they're not going to listen to us. Like I said, I'm a vestige of the past, so it's a tough road. My road to success was circuitous. It's hard, it's difficult, but it's achievable and obtainable. As long as you have the right mental model, Stephen Covey says, define the outcome first, define the end in mind. If you look at the end and the steps, and that's the best way to do it. Just think about what you want in life. Where are you now? Where have you been? And where are you going? Where you're going is really important because, time goes by fast and it'll be there before you know it. So just think about where you want to end up. And that helps me a lot.
Speaking of that, what's next for you?
Well, I'm pushing the photography thing. Prosper You is growing like crazy. I love my school. It is just amazing the things we're doing. I learned Jamie Coulter taught this to me, who took 3 companies public. He was just an amazing individual. He said, hire the right people, be obsessed with the right fit, give them the resources they need to be successful, and then train them and train them and train them, which has always been our model, those 3 things. And the last thing is let them know how much you appreciate them. Everybody needs that sense of appreciation. So I think that's been my model. That works. It's tougher now. Instructors are harder to find. The whole model has changed. You get a group of kids that are all from different backgrounds. You come from Compton, California, or you come from Darien, Connecticut. I don't care how smart you are. Your lens is different. How you see the world is different. So you have to adapt to those learning situations and those individuals. You can't put everybody in one basket anymore. So I'm learning all the time. I'm learning about how to be a better person. It's a good road.
You're doing great.
I'm not complaining. Yeah, I'll never retire. I mean, people ask me what my exit strategy is. I don't play golf. I don't know what I do. I like being in the trenches.
Yeah,
I'll be 110 doing a couple 90-year-old chicks in the chair. Going, whoa, this is fun.
I love it. Oh, that's great. And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it and subscribe to our show.
This show is part of the ICT Podcast Network. For more information, visit ictpod.net.